What's up, coffee campers? I'm Jason and you're watching All Terrain Coffee and Camping. So today I'm doing a video for the Camp Challenge Alliance for March 2023, and the challenge for this month is around fire. Now they left this pretty open. You know, you could do it about making a fire kit, you could do it about building actual fire safety. I'm going to start with my preferred fire starter or tinder bundle, or one that I just really enjoy doing. It's not necessarily that it's a preferred one. I just kind of enjoy making it. And I don't know if y'all can see this, but these flies are relentless. They don't seem to be kind of actually bite or sting, but they are bouncing off my face. Little gnats of some sort. Really? Okay, so what I like using is called jute twine. Typically you're going to find jute twine in a 3-strand configuration like this. If you can tell here, it's braided. It's 3 strands, and the strands are about like this each, about that width, maybe a little bit smaller. And I said typically because a lot of times this is how I buy it. However, I found in a dollar store one that you can see is a much thinner strand, and it's still weaved. It's all of these little fibers that make it up, which makes this a really good tinder bundle. Now, one thing I want to show you is how I break down the 3 strands, because a lot of people, they'll just take this and they'll just start pulling it apart. It turns into a mess. It's really difficult to work with when you do that. There's a couple of ways you can go about it. What I like to do is I take it and I twist it to separate the 3 strands. And now you'll see I've got this. This isn't a long piece. It's probably a little longer than what I would normally do for this method. Okay, so once you have your 3 strands like this, what I do is I'll hold it right here, and I don't pinch it hard. And I'll just grab one strand and I just kind of pull in short little bursts to pull that out. And once you do that, you'll see that the other 2, and you can still pull it the same way, but the other 2 really just come right apart. That's the easiest way to break down the 3 strands like that. And then from there, you can just kind of take it and just pull it out, and you'll see the fibers here. And you start getting the idea already why this is really good to make a tinder bundle with, little bird's nest with. And as you start breaking it down, you can actually just pull it apart like this. Right now you start getting those fibers. And then what I like to do, I'll just sit here and I'll just start shredding it. I try to prevent from having any bigger chunks in it. I want it shredded. I said you can even pull it this way and break it apart. It doesn't really matter if it's long pieces, because my goal here is to actually make this like a little tumbleweed looking bundle. So then what I like to do is I'll take it in my hands and I'll just start swirling it up. And there it is. So I can continue to do this. Let me go in and do some more here. And as I go to this next piece, my plan, I'm just going to keep this in my hand and keep adding to it. Right? So I'm just going to break some of it apart like this, get it down a little bit more manageable, and now you'll see it's just breaking apart. Hopefully it's in camera range there. Sorry for being so close to the camera. Because of those flies, I was trying to make sure, I was trying to minimize their footage. This is not their 15 minutes of fame. All right, let's go on and do that third piece. Another thing I really like about jute twine is typically it's pretty inexpensive, especially depending on where you buy it from. Now you do have to watch out because you can find jute twine. It's very commonly used in a lot of craft items, especially in the South for decorations. You know, they like to use this stuff to line decorations with, or even hang it up because it gives it a different certain look and feel. When you're buying it from a craft store, you're probably going to spend $8, $10, $12 for a small roll of it. And when I say a small roll, it's probably still a few hundred feet. It's probably at least 100, 200, 300 feet. But this spool that I bought, even though it's a single thread, this was a 3-pack that I got from a dollar store called the Dollar Tree. There were 3 rolls that were 100 feet each for $1.25. That's my point. Typically at Walmart, you can get the 3-strand. I think it runs $3 and some change. So make sure to look around. If you find a thing of jute twine and it's going to cost you, this is funny, I think it's a fly. Flies are getting stuck in my tinder bundle. But if it's going to cost you more than $5, $10+ don't buy it for this purpose, right? That stuff that, you know, they're trying to make it look a certain way, I don't think that's worth it. I would not advise spending money at a craft store for something that's meant to be decoration. But it's your money, so it's up to you. I don't think it's worth it. And I have been known, because to me it's actually a little relaxing sometimes just to sit here and pull apart this stuff. I have, while watching TV, cut off jute twine and just made little bundles. Some of it just for prep, some of it just to give me something to do. But it's practice. This is really inexpensive, really easy way to practice making bundles. The cool thing about this is now, whatever my fire starting method is, this stuff is going to catch fire really easy. Really easy. So whether I'm using a ferro rod or a Bic lighter or a match, I've never really used flint and steel. I've recently won a flint and steel striker, so I might give my hand at trying that, and I'll see how it works with this. I know a lot of times with flint and steel they recommend using char cloth, but I don't see why this wouldn't. This should definitely catch with flint and steel. All right, there we go. And that's how you make a tinder bundle using jute twine. Okay, so once we have our tinder bundle, we also need our kindling. And usually you want to go with a couple of different sizes for the kindling. So you got some that's a little bit smaller, it's going to burn quicker, and then some that's bigger. One thing I wanted to show and talk about is one of my favorite methods for the log lay. And this is what it can be called several things. It can be called a top down, or I believe they call it like a reverse log lay or reverse stack. I can't remember. Anyway, what happens here is a lot of times you start your tinder bundle and your kindling on the bottom, and then you start feeding the fire. Once it gets to a point, you start putting your bigger logs in on top of it. With this, you start out with your bigger logs already down, you build the fire on top of it. I like doing this because, at least with my experience, it creates better coals. You can get a really hot fire that'll last a long time. This is my preferred method. So let's see how this goes. I got my tinder bundle, and I'm going to be using a ferro rod that Mark Kratz from Mark Kratz MC had gifted me, that he made with a elk antler. So I'm going to use my striker here. Look at that. Right away. So now I want to take my smaller kindling. I'm going to place it right here. There we go. trying to shield this a little bit from the wind. It's actually quite a bit of little wind going on. I want to make sure it doesn't blow the flame out before it gets going good. But it is actually going. You probably can't see it with the light, but it is going here. So part of that kindling that I've got is some rotten wood, or what they like to call, some people call it like a punky wood, and that is catching. Okay, so full disclosure, it was struggling a little bit, so I went and grabbed some fat wood, which are these two pieces you see right here. Once I put the fat wood there with a little bit of flame that was there, actually caught on to it very well, and you'll see now it's making a big difference. So now we got that flame going. We're going to take some of our larger kindling and start feeding that. All right. And that's where it's always helpful to have some different options to help in case your elements decide to mess with you. Now, yeah, there were a lot of things I could have done different instead of grabbing fat wood, but I'm actually planning on cooking on this fire, and I didn't want to take forever having to go back and gather other things and doing other things when I had something that I knew would work. So I'm gonna let this burn for a little bit. You can actually see the log here on the end. It's actually starting to catch fire already, and that's going to start spreading. All right, we'll come back a little bit later and we'll see the progress of this. Okay, so checking back in, and to be honest with you, I didn't time to see how long it took to get to this point, but now you see it started making its way down. Right, we still got flames going. It's working on the coals, so I'm gonna give it a little bit of time still before I start cooking, because I don't want there to be way too much flames on a campfires. Especially, you got to be careful when it comes to flare-ups. And in my case, let's swing over here and take a look at what I'm going to be fixing. So I'm going to be fixing chicken thighs, and these are skin on, bone in chicken thighs. And the way I'm going to prepare these, so Drunken Chef Barbecue, I'll drop a link to his YouTube channel. His rubs are really good, and the base for his rubs is called SPG, which is salt, pepper, garlic. And then he's got additional rubs where he's added jalapeno, habanero, or the summer heat, which is jalapeno and habanero. I've tried the habanero before, and I decided let me try the jalapeno this time. So what I'm going to do, my plan is I'm only going to do maybe 1 or 2 of them with this, and the rest of them I'm going to be using this pan over here, and after I get them cooked to a point, I'm going to be dumping them in this barbecue sauce, or dumping this barbecue sauce on top of them in that pan and let it simmer in the pan for some time. Now, a lot of what I'm eating tonight, take 2. So yeah, the wonderful battery decided to be dead and turn off the GoPro. So I'm back. So tonight I'm planning on cooking chicken thighs over that campfire. So these are bone-in, skin-on chicken thighs. And how I'm going to prepare these, at least 1, maybe 2 of them, maybe just 1. I'm going to use Drunken Chef rub. If you're not familiar with Drunken Chef, I'll have a link for him in the description for his YouTube video. But he's got several different rubs out there, and his base is called SPG, which is salt, pepper, garlic. And then he's got one where he adds jalapeno. He's got another one for habanero, and then he has Summer Heat, where he's got both jalapeno and habanero in it. I've tried the habanero before. I really enjoyed that. This time around I'm going to try the jalapeno. So I'm going to do at least 1 of them in that, and I'm not going to put that in sauce because I want to see what it's like the way it is. Then whatever I don't season is going to go, after it gets cooked for a little bit, it's going to go in that pan, and I'm going to barbecue sauce it. And I'm going to let it simmer in that pan as barbecue sauce. And a lot of times we do actually make our own barbecue sauce. In this particular case, I kind of decided last minute this is what I wanted to do, and especially being just for me, I didn't want to go through making the sauce or trying to figure stuff out. This was an afterthought of doing chicken. Originally I thought about doing a steak, didn't see any steaks that I was really interested in, and said let me barbecue some chicken. I've been wanting barbecue chicken for a while. So what I did was I went through, I've never tried this particular barbecue sauce, but I looked at the different sauces and I read the ingredients. And I tried finding a sauce that was more similar to the ingredients that we use in our barbecue sauce. And this one was fitting that bill. Minus this is their hot version, so they do have habanero in that. So it's going to boost that heat up, which is fine by me. I love hot stuff. Something else I wanted to mention, when it comes to fire safety, when I'm out camping like this, especially when it's more windy conditions, I make sure I've got a water source close by and got some water ready to go. So in this case, whenever I go someplace that has a lantern pole, I always bring my drone bag, right? I go in and get it filled up, and I use this for a couple of reasons. One, it helps it so I can actually wash my hands off. So like in this case where I've got chicken, I've got some water right here to be able to rinse my hands off with. And then also in the case of if something happens and I need to douse this thing, I've got that water right there. Now at this site, come over here, there's a water spigot right here as well, but of course you'll need some sort of bucket or something along that lines in order to use it to douse a fire. Okay, so there's still some flames going on, but you can see that we've got some nice coals happening right now too. And I went on and spread everything out a little bit, dispersed it a little bit more evenly. And for the sake of being hungry and time and everything else, so I'm not cooking these too late, I'm going to get them started. You'll see I'm actually using my tongs to place these up here. Try to minimize having to worry about washing my hands. There. Now for the third one, well the last one, excuse me, the fourth one, I'm gonna season it real quick. And normally I would season these way ahead of time, but since I was just doing one and I'm out and about, I didn't feel like messing around too much with it. But what I just did will definitely get the job done. Now I get to play the fun game of watching these and flipping them and making sure they don't get too burnt. I've got a little secret I like to do to my chickens, but I won't give that away yet. All right, so the chickens are looking good. So my little secret is, when I'm barbecuing chickens and they're going to go into the sauce, so what I always do first is I'll cook them to a certain point, and I don't care if the skins get burnt or anything gets burnt on them, because that's just going to add to the flavor. The way I cook it in the juice, it'll actually it'll take that flavor onto the juice. The juice will take on some of the smoke and the char from the skins. And every time I've done it, it works out really good. I've been doing it this way for 20 years. My dad did this way before me. So this is kind of a tradition handed down from my dad to me, and how we've always done chickens. And I love it that way. Now, the one that I just seasoned, I paid a little bit more attention to it. So you'll see I've been trying to make sure that one doesn't get overly burnt, because I'm not going to cook that one in the juice. Now normally I don't use the aluminum pans like this, so I'm going to see how this works out. I've got one of those enamel pots that I use, kind of like a roasting pan I use at home. What I always do is I'll put some of the barbecue sauce on the bottom first. And I'll put the chickens in. Matter of fact, I'm going to put the pan up here. I'm going to take the remainder of the sauce, and I'm just going to dump it. And I do all of it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch this, make sure it doesn't start getting too hot. If so, the way I'll manage it, you know, over a fire like this, is I'll try to move the coals around. I'll try to move the pan away from the coals a little bit more. The back of it's a little bit higher. With this one, it can be a little bit harder for it to go any higher up than what it is right now. It kept wanting to slip on me. So now I'm just going to watch it until it's ready to eat. Now when I'm doing this at home and I'm using the enamel pot of the roasting pan, that does come with a lid, and the ones I'm talking about are the oval shaped with the handles on the side. I'll just stick that on my grill, and I'll usually put the lid on top and let it cook in there, let it simmer in it for quite some time. All right, well, the chickens have been in the sauce for at least a good 30 to 40 minutes or so, and that's what I like to do. When I'm doing them in the sauce like this, I try to keep them in for a minimum of 30 minutes, sometimes 45 minutes if I can do it. I've done it a bit longer before. Normally once you start hitting that range, unless you cook them way ahead of time, you're hungry. You don't want to wait for them anymore. There we go. You see there's still a little bit of bubbling going on in the sauce. As you can tell, the coals now have gone down quite a bit, but they're still coals. It's just not flames popping up. So even with these simple gloves on, it's very easy to manage that pan. Let's pull this back some here. And there we have it. That's my start to finish, how I take care of fires. Well, let me roll that back a second. So what's going to happen next is how I'm going to take care of disposing of the fire. In this case, I'm out here camping. I'm at a campsite. I'm going to be hanging outside for as long as the mosquitoes will let me, because they're deciding to come out. But I plan on having a fire going for a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll watch it, and I'll probably get to a point where I'm just going to let it burn out while I kind of watch and manage it. If for some reason, if I did this and I had to leave, I would douse the fire. So anyway, that's my start to finish, how I take care of fires, how I, do my tinder, how I get things started. And if I run into a problem because the elements aren't cooperating, or because maybe I made a mistake, I didn't plan for it right, but yet I've got other stuff as a backup. So you got to see how I actually handle that when that comes up, because it can happen, right? None of this stuff is like 100% fail safe, right? So then you saw how I did my wood lay, how I stacked all that up, got the fire going, and how once I get it to the point where I could disperse it, right? You saw that I moved the coals out to get it ready for cooking. Then you actually saw what I was cooking and some brief glimpses of the process while it was cooking, and now as it's done. Now, I will go in this state. After I took the chicken and I put Drunken Chef's jalapeno rub on, I was originally going to wait, and you could do a little taste test on camera with that. Nah, I couldn't wait. I had gone back in over where it was at, and without even thinking twice about it, I just started digging into it, and I was like, oh, oops. But I will tell you, it was really good. What I would like to do, I'll be doing this at home for sure, is when I do chickens again, I want to take that and I want to go on and just dump that rub all over some chickens and let it sit. Let it sit for a bit. That's how I normally, when I'm seasoning anything, I'll let it sit for some time. Let it sit, and it's just going to make a huge impact. But it was really good, even with, the last minute sprinkling that I did. So anyway, there we go. Now I'm going to go dig into this barbecue chicken here. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for being awesome. And I hope you have an awesome day. And again, this was my Camp Challenge Alliance for March 2023. See ya.